beautiful, bright, vibrant, open Saturday. Literally, the world cannot survive without Africa.
After being in office for nearly 2 years, Ibrahim Traoré has handled the security threats.
When Europeans left our continent, they made sure that we fear one another. So I was thinking, who should I spotlight this week on my Africa show? Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are having a very beautiful, bright, vibrant, open Saturday as you are starting your morning. And I hope you guys had a very productive week. So before we go on to the weekend, I want to ask you guys, as it is Saturday, take a moment to reflect on your week. Today I am at Dema Hope's Real Estate and I am feeling myself. I'm reading my book. I am with you guys most of all, which I am loving it. So please feel free to contact them on this number that you guys see below. Ta-da! Today we'll be starting with our spotlight. As usual, we talk about those people that we should acknowledge and value and honor their journey that they came through. And so I was thinking, who should I spotlight this week on my Africa show? And I was like, the perfect person popped into my mind, Professor Haile Gerima. As we know, he has now released his documentary that talks about the Battle of Adwa, which is a pride for us as Africans, and as Ethiopia is the only country that was never colonized. So I'm not going to talk about furthermore about Professor Haile Gerima's journey. I just want you guys to sit back, okay, relax, grab your coffee or your tea and enjoy the narration, and we'll be back. There are some artists whose work transcends time, whose stories do not simply entertain but challenge, awaken, and transform. Haile Gerima is one such artist, a cinematic griot, a keeper of stories, and a warrior of African cinema. Born in Gondar, Ethiopia in 1946, Gerima grew up immersed in the oral traditions of his homeland, where history was not written in books but carried in the voice of elders, in the rhythm of poetry, and in the melodies of folk songs. His father, a playwright, and his mother, a teacher, nurtured his love for storytelling, instilling in him the belief that history was not just a collection of past events. It was a living, breathing force that shaped the present and the future. But Gerima's path was not a straight one. In the late 1960s, he left Ethiopia for the United States, where he sought an education in filmmaking. He arrived at the University of California, Los Angeles at the time of great social and political upheaval. The civil rights movements had awakened a new consciousness among Black artists, and within the wall of UCLA, a collective of young Black filmmakers was forming. This group would later be known as LA Rebellion, a movement of visionary filmmakers determined to tell stories that Hollywood refused to acknowledge. Alongside figures like Charles Burnett, Julie Dash, and Billy Woodbury, Gerima found his creative voice, rejecting the Western gaze and embracing narratives that spoke to the struggles and challenges of the African diaspora.
This is Ainalam at 13. She is the principal character of my new film, Yet Utilij.
Gerima's early films were radical, raw, and apologetic. Bush Mama, 1979, was a searing critic of systematic oppression in Black American, while Harvest 3,000 Years, 1976, shot in Ethiopia, painted a haunting pictures of feudalism and social injustice. These were not just films, they were acts of resistance, challenging dominant narratives and reclaiming the power of Black and African storytelling. But it was in 1993 that Haile Gerima would create what many consider his magnum opus, Sankofa. Sankofa was more than just a film about slavery. It was a journey, a spiritual awakening that demanded that African descents look back in order to move forward. The film follows Mona, an African-American woman who, through a mystical encounter, is transported back in time to experience the brutal realities of slavery firsthand. But this is not just a story of suffering. It is a story of resistance, of survival, of reclaiming one's identity in the face of dehumanization.
It is an absolute honor to have you here with us. I love how you said that Sankofa is not a movie about slavery.
Rejected by Hollywood and unable to secure funding from mainstream studios, Gerima took matters into his own hands. He self-financed Sankofa, traveling from city to city, engaging black communities directly, urging them to support a film that belonged to them. The film became a grassroots phenomenon, proving that independent cinema could be powerful, profitable, and revolutionary. But for Haile Gerima, storytelling has never been about money. It has always been about truth. And as he enters the later years of his life, his mission remains unchanged. Now, after decades of filmmaking, Gerima has returned to the story of Adwa, a story that first captured his imagination over 25 years ago. In 1896, the Battle of Adwa became one of the most redefining moments in African history. It was here that Ethiopia, under the leadership of Emperor Menelik II and Empress Aitu, defied the odds and defeated the Italian army, securing Ethiopia's place as the only African nation to resist European colonization. In 1999, Gerima released Adwa, an African Victory, a groundbreaking documentary that chronicled this historic battle through the words of Ethiopian elders, blending oral history with archival footage to create a deeply personal and nationalistic retelling of the event. Now, in 2024, Gerima has embarked on a new journey, an even more ambitious project. His latest work, Black Lions, Roman Wolves, The Children of Adwa, is a 5-part documentary series that continues the story of Ethiopia's defiance, this time focusing on the Italian invasion of the 1935. The documentary examines how, 40 years after the first Battle of Adwa, Ethiopia once again found itself at war, this time against the full force of Benito Mussolini's fascist reign. It is a story of invasion, occupation, and ultimately liberation. Through rare archival footage, traditional war songs, and first-hand testimonies from Ethiopian elders, Gerima reconstructs the emotional and historical weight of this chapter in Ethiopia's past. But Black Lions, Roman Wolves is not just about war. It's about memory, about how history is preserved in the words of those who lived it, about how trauma is carried from one generation to the next, and most importantly, about how the spirit of resistance never dies. At nearly 80 years old, Haile Gerima is still fighting, not just for his films, but for the preservation of African history itself. The first part of the documentary premiered in 2024, offering a glimpse into the depth of his research and storytelling. But the full project remains unfinished. Funding has been scarce, and like many of his past works, Gerima is relying on independent support to bring the series into the final stage. For him, the struggle is not new. It is the same struggle he has faced his entire career. The battle to tell stories that must be told, regardless of whether the world is ready to listen. Haile Gerima is not just a filmmaker, he is a warrior of truth, a guardian of memory, who has dedicated his life to ensuring that the past is never forgotten, the history is never erased. And as long as there are stories to be told, his voice, through his films, his teachings, his legacy, will continue to echo across generations. Because history is not just what happened, history is what we remember. As long as we remember, we remain free.